Hi and welcome to Grails to Astonish. There is a major auction coming up on ComicLink with some absolutely top shelf books that I'm going to go through. You do not see comics like this coming up for sale very often, and when you do, they're usually at heritage auctions, which seems to get a lot of the higher priced books. But I'm not a fan of the heritage auction site, and I've become a big fan of ComicLink. So I'm set up here with my laptop, and I'm just going to scroll through the lots and call out any really major or unique stuff. This is just going to be window shopping. Most of the books I'm going to focus on are way outside my price range, as well as the price range of all but the most deep-pocketed collectors. I'll put a link to the auction in the description so you can take a look for yourself. There are about 1,000 books in the first round of the auction. Some will sell in the hundreds of dollars. Most are probably in the thousands. The ones I'm going to talk about will mostly be in the tens of thousands, and there are a few, at least one for sure, that will sell in the six figures. I am not planning to bid on these books, and if I were, I would kind of be shooting myself in the foot by talking about them here. But there are some spectacular books in this auction, and probably some are going to go for great prices. The auction just went live, and the first books will close 8 days from now on August 25th. So this video is time sensitive, which means I'm not going to spend days fussing over the editing and graphics. I promise I'll go back to the overlays and animated effects in future videos, but this one is going to be pretty raw. All right. Let's get started. Here we go. Summer Featured Auction, Session 1. So there's going to be, looks like 3 sessions here. And Session 1 is the one that I'm going to focus on. That's the high-end books. All right off the bat here, the very first book in this lot, Action Comics 28. This is a book that I actually have, and I've talked about it. I did a whole video about this book a while back. It's not a key, it's not a particularly special book, but it is a copy of Action Comics from 1940. Mine is restored 4.0. The one they've got here is a Blue Label 8.5 off-white pages. So fair market value on this Action Comics 28 is $7,250. My copy, my restored 4.0, I got for, I think, about $300. Current bidding is $1,388. Now, that's one of the fun things about this is right now, a week before the auction ends, you can go through and see a lot of these books worth tens of thousands of dollars, which are currently bidding at $100 or $200. That's not what they're going to sell for, but it's fun looking at them, and you can just kind of dream that maybe if you place a bid right now, no one else will find it. So this Action Comics 96 and 9.8, again, not a key. It's a cool cover with Superman playing chess at the bottom of the ocean with some scuba divers. What's interesting about this one is it is a 9.8. This is a copy of Action Comics in the first 100 issues from 1946, not quite a World War II issue, in 9.8 condition. Fair market value is $10,500. It is one of the 2 9.8 copies in existence, and it is rare all around. There's less than 100 copies. It looks like there's 81 copies listed in the CGC census for this book. So this is very rare to have in any grade, but extremely rare in 9.8, and it's a cool cover. Moving on, we've got one of the most interesting books in this whole auction, Adventure Comics number 40. This is the first appearance of Golden Age Sandman, and this copy is in a restored 8.5. It's had extensive professional restoration. This copy is one of 46 copies of this book in existence, at least graded. There are 46 graded copies of this book. Only 26 of them are in universal grade, so 20 of them are restored. This is one of the 20 that are restored. Adventure Comics number 40, the highest unrestored copy, there's one at 8.0. Yes, it is restored, and a lot of people don't like having restored books, but when you're talking about this one, which is so rare, almost half the copies are restored. This book has a fair market value. It's hard to say since there's so few copies and so few sales, but the last sale of it was $13,200. In fact, we actually can take a look on Go Collect and see that the very same copy that is up for auction on ComicLink sold at Heritage in 2021 for $11,400, and then it sold again on Heritage just 3 months ago, for $13,200. I can pull it up right here. This is the same serial number 07435-05001, sold in May of this year on Heritage for $13,200, and they've got it at ComicLink right now, and it's bidding at $4,100. All right, the next one on the list, scrolling through a lot of these, but then we've got All-Star Comics number 8 in 3.0 Blue Label. This is the first appearance and origin of Wonder Woman. She is not on the cover, but this is the Wonder Woman key. This book is worth, or is currently going for, $28,000. Let's pull it up on Go Collect. There are a number of other copies at 3.0, and they're all going for $24,000 to $37,000. At the peak of the pandemic boom, it went for $37,000. It's currently bidding at $19,500, so it's already up pretty high. This book is going to go for a lot. It may actually beat fair market. We're going to skip over these all winners. I used to own this all winners book. Sold this for a good price. I had a 7.0 of this one. I like this cover. They're stepping on Hitler, Mussolini, and Hirohito's head. Here we go. The big time Amazing Fantasy 15. This auction has 2 copies of Amazing Fantasy 15. They are at 7.0 and 5.0. 5.0 is really the sweet spot for me. It's where I like to buy books. I'm not so big on getting the 9.8s and the 9.6s for Silver Age books. I just don't find that I particularly need them. I like getting them and selling them, but I am a mid-grade guy. In fact, I feel like I am a mid-grade guy. If I were to get graded, I would come in at about 5.0. So I really feel a connection to those 5.0 books. That said, I wouldn't kick a 7.0 out of bed. This is a very old label, probably from the early years 2000 to 2002, judging from the design of the label. And it is a 7.0 with some Marvel chipping on the side. It's a really, really good copy. The reds in it are really, really bright. The fair market value on this book is $125,000. Let's look it up. Amazing Fantasy 15 at 7.0. So the peak of the market for this book was 3 years ago. In January of 2022, a similar copy, in fact, it might have been this copy, it's possible, sold for $252,000. But then the bottom came just last month. Copy in the same condition sold for only $115,000. Yeah, so this is an Off-White Pages book that is pretty good. And it is currently bidding at $45,000. It's going to sell for a lot more than $45,000, but nowhere near what it was selling for 3 years ago. Whoever gets this is going to be glad they bought it in 2025 and not 2022. Now the 5.0 has a bit of chipping. The corner is gone. Pages are still off-white. You can see when I go back and forth, it could be how they were photographed, but it does look like the 7.0 has brighter colors, in particular brighter reds. This one is currently at a fair market $46,000. The peak of the market for this book was, once again, 3 years ago at $84,000. So back in 2022, this 5.0 copy, not this copy, but a 5.0 copy, sold for $84,000. Today, the fair market is $46,000. The bidding on this one is $19,000. There are 2. It's great in an auction when you have multiple copies of the same book, close to the same grade. That splits the bidders. It's not great if you're the seller, but it's great if you're the buyer. And this book is always in demand, but not as much as it used to be. It's a good sort of bellwether for where the comic collector market is on the whole, for what these Amazing Fantasies sell for, because it's one book that is evergreen. There always has been and always will be demand for it, but there sometimes just isn't the same amount of money going around being spent. So now we get into the Amazing Spider-Mans. Of course, Amazing Spider-Mans are always huge. They are about a quarter of the collectible market overall is spent on Amazing Spider-Man issues, and most often I would say probably in these first 100 issues. And then the ones that I really like to focus on are the Ditko books, the first 38, and then even more specifically, the first 15 issues of Amazing Spider-Man. That's what I think of as the golden period for Amazing Spider-Man. There were so many great characters in those first 15 issues. So much of what Spider-Man was established. I would say up to not issue 15, but actually Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1, which came out right after issue 15. So it's 17 books. It's the first 15 issues of Amazing Spider-Man, as well as Amazing Fantasy 15 and Annual 1. Those 17 books. And it's always interesting seeing how they do an auction. And ComicLink is amazing. They always have high-grade copies of those books. And this one, again, they've got a 7.0 and a 5.0 for issue 1, 7.0 for issue 2. Issue 3, they've got a 9.0. Issue 3 is a little bit higher of a market cap than issue 2 because it's Dr. Octopus instead of the Vulture. It's a great, great cover. This 9.0 is currently bidding at $8,950. It has a fair market value of $20,000. So yeah, I think it's pretty likely that when all is said and done, this one will go for about twice what it's bidding at right now, $20,000. 3 years ago, this was going for $44,000. And then it bottomed out with a sale in April of $15,000. So it's possible, actually. The fair market value is listing at $20,000, but it sold for $15,000 on Heritage. It could go for lower here. Again, we got a 9.0 of issue 4, currently bidding at $7,300. Fair market on that is $17,500, but it sold on Heritage again in April for $13,800. So between these two at 9.0, I would definitely want to own a 3. I think that should be a lot more valuable than the 4. Then we got a 9.4 of issue 5. This is Dr. Doom meets Spider-Man. It's kind of a weird issue to read. This version of Dr. Doom, not quite the same as the Fantastic Four's version of Dr. Doom. Neither here nor there. We're not reading this book. This one has a fair market of $29,000 with the bidding at $42.33. Recent sales of it, let's see, in 2019, before the pandemic, this sold for $26,400. And then there aren't a lot of other 9.4 sales since 9.4 is so rare. There's only 15 9.4 copies, only 11 copies in higher condition than this. There's one 9.8 copy of this book. There are 10 9.6s and 15 9.4s. Fair market on this book is actually $21,000. Well, there hasn't been a 9.4 sold in over 2 years, and that was at $21,000. I think the 9.4 could end up going for more than fair market. That seems kind of low for a 9.4. There's so few copies. And then issue 6, first appearance of the Lizard, we've got a 9.6 copy. There are 3 9.8 copies, only 11 9.6s, fair market value of $26,000. The bidding for this one is at $5,900. You get a 9.6 copy of this book. It is in the top 0.4% of the population. You can see right here, top 0.4% of the population. This is very rare. Lizard is not a top shelf Spider-Man villain, but this is issue 6. Then we get to page 2, and we've got issue 8 at 9.8 white pages. This is as good as it gets. There is no way there's going to be a 9.9 copy of this or any early Silver Age book. 9.8 white pages is as good as it gets. This is a copy of Spider-Man in the first 10 issues at 9.8 white pages. You do not see many of these. In the census, there are 7 9.8 copies. This is one of the 7. Fair market value of $38,000. The bidding on this one is currently at $9,527. So this is in the top 0.3% of the population. This is a perfect copy of this book. I actually have this book. This, also a 9.8. Just kidding, not a 9.8 at all. It's missing big chunks of the front page. It's in like a 1.5 condition, maybe at best. This one, however, is going to go for a lot more. Could beat the $38,000 because if you are someone who's collecting 9.8s, you're going to pay what you're going to pay. And there are a number of people out there who are hunting for 9.8 copies of early Spider-Man issue. We got another 9.8, issue 10. This is 9.8 off-white to white. So not an absolutely perfect, and I don't think it's going to get the fair market if it's off-white to white. This is $19,000, half as much as the issue 8 at 9.8, and it's not got white pages. So the bidding on this is $52.99. Then we got the first appearance of Mysterio, 9.4. At 9.4, you got 24 copies, 16 at 9.6 and 1 at 9.8. Fair market is $19,500. This is, again, off-white to white pages. Bidding on this is $35.99. We got a 9.0 of issue 14. We got a 9.4 again of issue 15, Kraven the Hunter. Fair market on issue 15 at 9.4 is $16,000. The bidding on this one right now is $4,035. And then we've got an issue 20. I'm going to skip past these. 9.8 of 19, not that exciting. However, 9.8 of issue 20 is exciting. This is the first appearance of the Scorpion, another great cover. 9.8 off-white to white. Not quite perfect, but very close. Fair market on this book at 9.8 is $29,000. There are only 7 copies in that perfect 9.8 grade, and this is going to go for a lot. This one is currently bidding at $52.99, but it's likely to go for closer to $30,000. Only a couple other ASMs that I want to look at. We've got 28. Now 28 is a really interesting one. It's very hard to find in high grade because of this cover, this Molten Man cover. They did something kind of experimental with the cover. It's almost entirely black. That looks cool. It also means that any defects in the cover, any spine ticks, any fraying in the corner is going to show up really, really easily. When you look at the population, here's the curve for issue 20. You see the curve drops off at 7.0. Very few copies in high grade. You can see right here, there's 16 9.4s, 8 9.6s, and 0 9.8s. This 9.4 has a fair market of $16,000. Last sale was at $16,200. At the peak, there's really no sales. There's only one sale, 2 sales during the pandemic boom at $16,200, $19,800. So this one will probably be down a lot from there. Maybe more like this 2014 sale of $74.50. What's it currently bidding at? It's currently bidding at $84.49, so apparently not. It's going to do well. It's going to do better than that. Probably over $10,000. Maybe it'll get fair market. $16,000, we'll see. One book I would caution people about is this ASM 33. I don't think any of you are likely to be bidding on this book, but I'll tell you, don't get too excited about a 9.8 of ASM 33 because that is from the month of the warehouse find that I talk about a lot. That's the month of Marvel books that was discovered in a warehouse, boxes and boxes of high-grade copies. So if you look at the census for this issue, you see 54 9.8s. Now if you look at the previous month, issue 32, there's only 5 9.8s. And if you look at the month after, issue 34, you've got 9 9.8s, but this one is at 54. There are as many 9.8s of issue 33 almost as there are 9.8s of all 32 issues before this one. There's only a handful of 9.8s for most ASMs in the Ditko era, but this one has a ton of them because somebody just found a box full of these pristine ones. And the 9.6 got 131, 9.4, 152. The curve here, you can see, compare this to issue 28. So take a look at this grade curve for issue 33, and then compare it to issue 28. The Molten Man issue, big difference. Big difference here. So finding a 9.8 at auction, not as exciting as finding an issue 20 or an issue 10 or an issue 8 at auction, because there are just a whole lot of them. That's all I want to look at for the ASM books, and we got a lot of these John Romita era ones. Of course, when you get to issue 50, there's always a ton of issue 50s at auction. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We've got 9.6, 9.4, 9.2, and 9.0. This book is really high demand. I'm not that interested in it. Got some 9.8s here of issue 56 and issue 57. I just sold an issue 57 at 9.8. Mine was an off-white to white pages. This is a white pages, so this one will go for more than mine sold for. Mine sold for $3,000. I think this one will sell for more like $4,000. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the rest of these ASMs. We always have to stop and take a look. Here's Death of Gwen Stacy at 9.8, white pages, 2766. Yes, yes. This is a high population book. Not as exciting as finding a Ditko book in 9.8. Then we get to The Punisher. This is like issue 50. This is one of the most graded comic books in existence. So this auction, they're not going to put a bunch of 9.8s. They're going to save the other 9.8s for future auctions, but they will put up a 9.8 white pages, 9.6 white pages, 9.4 off white to white, 9.4 signed. Oh, it's got a Stan Lee signature. Off white to white, 9.2, 9.0, and then they're going to stop at 9.0. And the lower grade copies will be in the next auction. But this, let's see, this 9.8 is going for $11,649 already. Folks, don't do it. Don't overpay for Bronze Age books. The Punisher book, it is a high population book. I don't know why it sells for this much, but it does. To each their own. I'm going to move on. All the way at the bottom of this auction, at the end of the ASMs, is one of my favorite comics, Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1. I have 3 copies of this book right now. I just sold a 4th. My highest copy is at 7.0. This one is at 9.2. It's currently bidding at $4,899. The fair market value on this book is $15,500. It's a great cover. It's got Electro, it's got the Vulture, it's got the Sandman, it's got Dr. Octopus, it's got Kraven the Hunter, it's got Mysterio, it's got the X-Men, it's got the Fantastic Four, it's got Iron Man, it's got Thor. The whole Marvel universe is crammed into this issue. It's a lot of fun. I feel like Ditko was having a great time when he made this, I think. I don't know. It seems like a kind of person who was rarely having a great time, but he was really firing on all cylinders. And then things were clearly starting to fall apart by the 30s. He was doing his own thing, and Stan Lee was kind of didn't know what to do with him. But this is where it all really came together. All right, that's it for the ASMs. I want to stop off briefly right here. We've got Archie number 1 at 3.0. I am not an Archie collector. I don't know anyone who is. This one, though, is really valuable. Even at 3.0, fair market is $18,000. Current bidding on this one is $3,625. But that is not the first appearance of Archie. That is in PEP 22. We'll talk about that a little later. Moving on, we've got Avengers number 1 at 8.0. I've got my Avengers number 1 right here. This one is not an 8.0. This is a 5.0. It's a pretty nice looking copy, though. There are 57 8.0 copies. That is the top 3.7% of the population. I think this book is a really great investment. I think it's undervalued. For the Marvel Silver Age keys, they're all worth more pretty much at the same grade than Avengers number 1. You look at an X-Men number 1 at 8.0, that is $100,000, $150,000 book. Spider-Man number 1 at 8.0, way up there. Avengers 1 at 8.0, fair market, $16,500. Should it be lower than the first Iron Man, the first Thor, the first Fantastic Four, the first Hulk? I don't think so. Collectors think so because it's not the first appearance of any of these characters. I don't think that matters as much as collectors today think it matters. I don't think it's going to matter in 20 years that this is not their first appearance. I think it will matter that this is the first issue of Avengers, and I think this book's undervalued. Current bidding is at $58.55 with a fair market of $16,500. At the peak of the market 3 years ago, this sold for $28,800. However, where we are right now, which maybe is the bottom, maybe not, there was a recent sale for $13,800, under the fair market value. So this book is dropping in value. Will it go for $13,800 this time? I don't know. I sold my other copy of Avengers 1 with ComicLink a couple months ago, and it went for $2,700. That was at 4.0 though, and it was not a great looking copy. This is a great looking copy. even at 8.0, although it's got creamed off-white pages. People who are willing to pay a lot for a high-grade copy are not going to love that this one is creamed off-white, so it may not get fair market. And then there's a 9.4 of issue 2, which I'd like to get excited about, but it's not really worth a lot. Fair market on issue 2 at 9.4 is exactly $5,000, and this one is a white pages, so it should get that at least. I think this is also a great issue. It's just not very sought after. Avengers are not super valuable. Again, we've got Avengers number 4. I think this is one of the best Silver Age covers. I don't really know anybody who doesn't think this is one of the best Silver Age covers. The Return of Captain America. This is Jack Kirby at his best. This is a 9.6 copy. Granted, it's creamed off-white again. This is a 9.6 copy of one of the best Silver Age comic covers of all time. And the market doesn't think it's worth what I think it should be worth. Its current fair market is $32,000. Bidding on this is $5,800. At the peak, it sold for $45,600. Most recent sale on this one was $25,200. I have my copy. This one is right here. You can see it right here. I got a 7.0. There are 27 copies of this book at 9.6. So that's part of the reason why it's not that valuable, is it's not that rare at 9.6. You got 27 9.6s and 6 9.8s. The 9.8s fair market is $120,000. 9.6, it's roughly a quarter of that. Wow, that is a big difference between the 9.6 and the 9.8. And seeing as this one is creamed off white, it's probably going to be a lot closer to $32,000 than $120,000. The bidding is going to be split on this because there's also an 8.0 copy, and an 8.0 is worth $3,900. Boy, prices drop fast when you get out of these high grades. That seems like a really good price for an 8.0 of this issue. Current bidding is at $725. My God. I'm just going to put this, I'm just going to put a minimum bid down on this one. Wow. All right, there you go. So I'm currently the high bidder on this book. Avengers issue 4 at 8.0. I just bid $775. If I get it for $775, then I will sell my Avengers 4 at 7.0 and have this one instead, because that's a great book. Good old Kang. Kang has really suffered some peaks and valleys in the market. It is down low right now, this 9.2. Current fair market is $4,200. But just a few years ago, when Kang was riding high, it was almost triple the price at $11,150. Somebody paid $13,750 for a 9.2 4 years ago. And today the fair market is $4,200. Because Kang is not happening in the MCU. That is over. I have mine. I scooped up a 7.0 of it, which is around here somewhere for very, very little, because there was just a fire sale on Avengers issue 8s in the last year when Kang was booted out of future MCU movies. Batman, this is one of the most interesting books in the auction. So this is a copy of Batman #1. Notice something strange about this? There is no cover, and the pages are listed as brittle. Brittle pages, Batman #1, first appearance of the Joker and Catwoman, but comes with some conditions. Front cover is missing. So if we do some digging on this Batman #1 at 0.5, we'll actually see a fair market is $58,000 at 0.5, but here we see that this very same copy sold on Heritage just 2 years ago, and it sold for $27,600. So this particular copy, even though it is blue label 0.5, you don't want to go with fair market on this one because it doesn't have a cover. With no cover and brittle pages, it's hard to say what's going to happen with this book. If you were to buy it, put it away in a safe, or not a fireproof safe because of the moisture issue, put it away from light and humidity, maybe it'll stick around. But with brittle pages, the lignins have broken down in the paper. They use really, really cheap pulp paper to make these, And once it's tanned like that, it's hard to stop the decay of the paper. So I don't know for sure, and experts on comic condition may want to come in and correct me, but it seems to me that if you were to buy this copy and wait 50 years or 100 years, you might just have a plastic case with a pile of dust at the bottom. I have a feeling that whoever bought this comic 2 years ago maybe didn't know about the situation with brittle pages and maybe found out and is now selling it. Or maybe not. Maybe they bought it to sell and wanted to flip it very quickly. You very rarely see it, and when you do, it goes for a lot. But this one, probably not going to go for a lot. The bidding's at $4,100. Maybe it is worth it. I mean, that's a screaming deal. You're not going to get a Batman 1. Let's look at all these other sales. We've got one for $12,600, but this one, this is just a photocopied cover. It's same situation, but the owner of this put a photocopy of the cover on and sold it. But then, a little bit further down, we got Batman number 11. This is not, I believe, the first Joker cover. It may be the first. No, Detective 40 is supposedly, there's some controversy about it, whether or not that is actually Joker on the cover. So I'm going to say this is not the first Joker cover, but it is a great Joker cover. Batman number 11 at 7.0, off-white to white pages. The fair market on this book is $15,500. Auction is currently going for $9,100. I think it's going to... Joker covers always seem to beat fair market to me. There always seems to be a lot more demand for Joker covers, early Joker covers, than Go Collect and the price guides seem to think there is. I would much rather have Batman number 11 at 7.0 than this copy of Batman 1 at 0.5. The early Batman covers, aside from them being early Batman covers, they're also just great works of pop art from that time period. All right, moving on. A bunch of early Batmans in high grade. This is the first Batmobile cover in 9.0, and it's a really cool looking Batmobile. But I'm going to move along. Silver Age Batmans, we got this one. Batman 181, first appearance of Poison Ivy at 9.4. I don't know why this book is so sought after. I know people prize this book, this 9.4. Fair market is $17,000. Poison Ivy. Okay. I like Poison Ivy. 9.4 white pages, can't do that much better. We got a Batman 227 at 9.4. That's going to go for a few thousand. Bidding's already at $3,200. Wow. See, man, these Batman covers, the 227 and 251. So this one, the fair market is $3,600. The bidding with a week to go is already at $3,200. So this one's almost sure to beat fair market. This is a really, really high demand cover, and it's one I'd love as well, but I'm not going to get it at 9.4. These are really, really hard to get. I don't know why the fair market lists it as low as it is. It always goes for more than fair market. Also 251, same deal. They got a 9.6 and a 9.4. 251. So if you did want to get a 251 in high grade, this would be a great auction to do it because the bidding is split. You got 9.6, fair market is 5,500. 9.4, fair market is 3,000. These are going for $2,200 and $2,299. This one's higher. The 9.4 is higher than 9.6 right now because the 9.4 is white pages. The 9.6 is off white to white. People really do care about having white pages. I think the 9.6 will probably end up selling for more than 9.4, but right now the bidding's higher than 9.4. I just bought my copy of this book at 7.0. I don't need a high grade copy. So that's it for Batman. And then we get into, I'm going to talk about Black Cat. This is a notorious cover, one of the nastiest looking covers from the Golden Age for the Comics Code, when they had these really, really gross covers. Even, I mean, what were they thinking? You put this on a newsstand, like, I love a graphic, gross, shocking cover as much as the next person, but I can't believe they put these on newsstands. I get it. I mean, they sold, but this is really gross. I mean, it would be kind of cool to have this, but like, what am I going to do with it? I wouldn't put this on the wall. Somebody comes in my house, they'd be like, what is wrong with you? Fair market value is $15,000 is the cream to off-white copy. Here we go. Blue Beetle 9.6. I don't know a lot about Blue Beetle. I've never bought a Blue Beetle book. I've never looked at one before, never thought about buying one. But happened to notice that when I check this out in Go Collect, I've seen rare books. I've seen books where there are 80 copies. I've seen books where there are 50, even 30 copies. But Blue Beetle number 27 has only 13 copies in the census. This is, I think, the rarest book I've ever seen. 11 universal graded, 1 signature, I don't know who signed it, and 1 restored. So there's 13 copies graded of this book, and this is the highest graded at 9.6. I know there was a Blue Beetle movie like a year or two ago, but this is the golden age Blue Beetle. He's flying a plane. I don't know anything about it. It's just very rare. Unlike all the other books I've been talking about, though, this is not worth a ton of money. There's only 3, 4, 5, 6 tracked sales of universal graded copies of this book. They're all for a few $100s each. So you could get the highest graded copy of Blue Beetle 27 from 1943, probably for peanuts. Who knows? I don't know what the demand is going to be for this. The bidding's at $605. So somebody out there is somewhat excited about this. I don't know if it'll end up going in the thousands, but it is very high grade, very, very rare book. You got your Brave and the Bold 28, first appearance of the Justice League right here in 7.5, fair market of $14,500. This is one of the big Silver Age DC books. Starro, who showed up in the Suicide Squad movie a couple of years ago. Bidding's at $6,766. And the last thing I'm going to talk about in this first video, Captain America number 1 at 7.0. This, of the 1,000 or so books in this summer auction on ComicLink, this is the most valuable right here. This book is, after Action Comics number 1 and Detective 27, probably the 3rd most valuable, most sought after comic. And then of course you got Amazing Fantasy 15, very different situation. This is Golden Age, very, very scarce. 7.0 is very high. There are 13 7.0 copies, and there are only 17 copies of this book in better condition. And this is, of course, Captain America number 1, where he's punching Hitler in the face. Classic historic cover. You got Jack Kirby, who's a young guy, I don't know, maybe 19 or 20 years old, maybe 22 when he drew this. Second generation Jewish American, obviously really hated the Nazis, upset about the Nazis spreading. But this was published in early 1941, months before Pearl Harbor. The U.S. was not directly involved in World War II. We were assisting England and European countries in World War II, but we had not gotten into the war yet. Jack Kirby and Joe Simon, really upset about the spread of Nazis, about Hitler, wanted to get Americans riled up about getting involved in World War II. Captain America was invented to punch Hitler in the face. Here he is doing what he does so well. This book is worth $300,000. $300,000. 7.5, 320, 350, 410. So we've had a couple sales, I think, of over $1 million. For the one sale of over $1 million 3 years ago, for the highest graded copy of this book at 9.4. And when the bidding on this is already at $130,000, so it may end up cracking 300. Quite a book for them to get in this auction. And yeah, I don't think anything is going to sell for more than this one. Then right after we got Captain America number 2. At 7.5, which I've got right here on the wall. This is my copy. It's restored 6.0. This is an unrestored. Oh, it is conserved, though. I didn't notice that until just now. It's a conserved 7.5, creamed off-white pages. So conservation includes cover reinforced, cover cleaned. Okay, so this one's a bit like mine. It's had some work done. In fact, the same kind of work has been done up, but this one got a conserved. Mine cannot get a conserved because of the quality of the restoration. I don't think was good enough, and I think there was some color touch. So this got changed to a conserved from restored. Mine is and will always be restored. The cover again has Hitler on it, and Hitler's got this look on his face where he's just like, "Oh my God, who let him in?" This is first Captain America with a round shield. They had a shield-shaped shield in the first issue, but the Shield is another superhero who the folks who made the Shield went over to to Timely and said, hey, Captain America is too much like our character, the Shield. So they got rid of the shield-shaped shield and gave him a circular shield for the second issue. This one is going for $3,600 with a fair market. I had the fair market at $43,000, but that's for a blue label. This is not a blue label. This is conserved. You would think conserved would go for almost as much as blue label, but it's pretty new, and it seems like people are not willing to pay blue label prices for conserved. So I doubt it'll go for $43,000, but this is also a great book. You rarely see this come up at auction. Issue 3 is another weird one. Captain America number 3, 8.5 restored. First appearance or first cover appearance of the Red Skull. I think the Red Skull was in issue 1, but here he is on the cover. But why, if you have a copy of Captain America number 3, first Stan Lee comic, he wrote a text-only story in this issue. I think he was 17 years old. So this is first Red Skull on the cover, third issue of Captain America, and the first Stan Lee comic. Why would you get it graded by CBCS? I don't understand that. CGC is the big fish in comic grading. I get why you go with CBCS if you want to save money, or if there's something about your book where you feel like CGC isn't going to give you the grade you want. Maybe you get a better grade by going with CBCS. I don't know. But for these keys, for these high value books, I don't know why you would take the chance on getting a lower price, because people aren't going to pay as much for a CBCS as they will for a CGC. If it's just like a Spider-Man 300 or Secret Wars 8 or something like that, I guess I kind of get going with CBCS there to save money maybe. But why would you do that with Captain America Comics number 3? Bidding on this is $5,300. Now I have the fair market value. I didn't realize it was restored. Fair market, if this was unrestored, would be $120,000 if it was CGC unrestored, but this is CBCS restored. So it's not going to get $120,000. Now you could buy it and you could crack it and you could get it graded with CGC, and then you could resell it and you might do better than it does in this auction. I could be totally wrong about that. That's just my sense. I would be very wary of getting a very expensive key book that isn't graded by CGC. Bidding on this is $5,300. It'll go in the tens of thousands, might go for $50,000 or $60,000. I will be watching. I'm very curious to see what this sells for, because it's very hard to predict. It's rare to begin with. You got only 131 graded copies with CGC. Then we got a whole bunch of Captain Americas here. They're from pedigrees. We've got the, I can't read that pedigree. Doesn't matter. A lot of high grade Captain Americas from the run. But after the first 3 issues, I'm not super interested until we get all the way to 46. 46 is interesting because this is one of the very few depictions of the Holocaust in Europe from 1945. This was just as Americans were finding out about what had been happening, what the Nazis had been doing. This is kind of a wrenching cover to look at. And I don't know how I'd feel about owning this. I can't imagine bidding on it. I understand why it is a rare and valuable piece of history, that I understand why a high value is placed on it, but I kind of raise an eyebrow at anybody who would be excited about owning it, to be perfectly honest. The fair market value of this at 8.0, this is a really high grade copy, is $56,000. There are only 4 copies at 8.0 and only 5 copies at a higher grade than 8.0. So you're really getting near the top for this book. And this is a really interesting piece of history here. Moving on, we got a whole bunch more Captain Americas, high-grade Captain Americas, high-grade pedigree Captain Americas. I don't think there's any very memorable stories here. I don't think they were particularly great. I think Kirby had left by this point, had he? Torch should fly. Yeah, I think Kirby was off the book by this point. Sales were way down after World War II or 1947. Still got the Red Skull striking back, but there's no war to fight. So Captain America, they weren't sure what to do with him. And they started putting him in horror stories. Then I did a whole video where I talked about this issue, Captain America 69, The Weird Tales of the Wee Males. Very bizarre cover. Very few copies of this book. There are only 49 graded copies. Only 2 at 7.0, only 2 higher grade than this. Bidding's at $110. You know what? Since I did a whole video talking about this book, I'm going to just drop a minimum bid in here. Yeah, okay, I'm currently the high bidder on this one for $120. It'd probably sell for a couple thousand. And then we got, where is it? 74 is this. Captain America was really a horror character. Horror was becoming big in the late 40s. They kind of didn't cancel Captain America yet. They transitioned him into being a horror character for some reason. It's kind of an odd fit. This is the Red Skull, but it doesn't really look like the Red Skull. You see this cover a lot. This is issue 74 at 5.0. Fair market is $14,500. Bidding on this is $3,500. And that is it for all the books that are auctioning on the 25th. This is day one of the auction. I will go on, let's see, yeah. I will do a separate video if I have time where I talk about day 2 and day 3 of the auction. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.